Unbelievable. This game has been all about the line of scrimmage. Howie Roseman believes in offensive and defensive lines, and they have certainly been dominating the game.
Well, all is right with the world. Kansas City didn't get their three-peat. Our Dolphins are still in number one with 2 Super Bowls, so life is good. Going to get into the game, but more importantly, get into what it means for our Dolphins. I've been talking since 2022 about the cycle shift, moving more to pass balance, running the football. Offensive lines are being more prominent. They've always been prominent, but even more prominent. And this game, 40-22, shows a ton about where the NFL is headed, where it is, and where our Dolphins are at. So I'm going to get into all of that. Now, clearly, I'm not really good at predictions. I predicted 30-23. It ended up being 40-22. So sort of in the ballpark, but I had a feeling the Eagles were going to win. It's a game of horses. It's a game of trenches. It's a game of physicality. And it clearly, as I played in the beginning, Brady talked about Howie Roseman favors the trenches, favors physicality. And you could see that it is the sweet spot. And this win here with the quarterback who's, is good, but not great, but building the team around him, a physical team with trench domination, is going to be what a lot of teams are going to try to copy. They're going to have a very hard time because Roseman's so good. But clearly, you could see you don't need Mahomes to win. In fact, Mahomes has 2 losses now when his offensive line failed. And so we have to understand, quarterback he raises the ceiling, but the offensive line sets the table for everything. Then the defensive line, the defense as a total, and then you add in the skill elements on offense. And so Roseman is built one way, and our guy Chris Grier is built another way, and it's going to compound the issues of what we have here in Miami. It could be flashy, but unless we understand what's going on here, we're going to kind of be one of those hamsters on treadmills. Thuney, he got moved to left tackle. He got 5 pressures. Smith had a hard day, 2. Tail on the outside had 2. He was pressured 50% of the time, but 0 blitzes. 0 blitzes. And Hurts was blitzed about 9 times, but this is really kind of reminiscent of what the Dolphins like to do and how defenses play us. Now, obviously, the Eagles are supremely talented. They're ridiculously talented. But the offensive line of the Chiefs was a sore spot. And you got to understand, offensive line makes the NFL world go round. I've been saying that. People kind of laughed at some of the things I've been saying. But all I was really saying is that this is football. Now, it changed a little bit, and I understand with the fumble system, but that was a blip on a radar of a 100-year history. Mahomes ran 14% play actions, 16 total percent pass rush mitigation, but the screens really are not effective if you're not getting blitzed. Play actions don't really matter if you're not getting blitzed and they're playing coverage. And so Mahomes was in an impossible situation. So he got sacked 7 times, 4-man rush. Clearly, Fangio is not an idiot. Yes. The talent is much better than what he had with us. But the defense last year for the Eagles was 30th in points, 26th in pass yards, and 31st in rush yards. This year they went to 2nd, 1st, and 1st. Clearly, Fangio isn't an idiot. But he definitely had loads of talent, and that talent meshed up with a porous offensive line. Even the great Mahomes, with a very good defense, couldn't get out of the box. Sweat, he had 8 pressures and 3 sacks. He probably should have got the MVP. I understand you're going to give it to the quarterback. But this O-line difference, and it was a vast difference, was huge. Eagles, they really weren't blitz as much. Spags likes to blitz more than 9 times. But people say, oh, well, Barkley didn't have a great production game. But if you don't understand that Barkley set the table for everything, obviously meshed with this offensive line and tight end unit, the blocking unit. But if you look at the defense, there were 7 and 8 guys in the box all day. And they still couldn't generate the pressure. But this opened up the plays, these big plays that Hurts was able to make with Smith and what's the other guy's name? I can't remember the other guy's name. Brown. I guess it's his name. I don't know. I'm tired. Long day. But it was Barkley being that guy who they were desperate to stop, created the leverage. Tua never sees this. I'm not saying Tua's going to win with it, but what we saw was low blitzing, and it wasn't this low, but low blitzing, high leverage from the linebackers, commitment to play the pass game, no run game. Reed, I think, came out and got too cutesy. He had developed a change from when he was in Philly to KC to be more physical and more balanced. And you could see how lack of balance, inability to protect, past whatever it was, 2.3, 2.4 seconds, you can't win. And so it's got to come back to, yes, Hurts, he also magnifies Barkley and that box. And Tua can't do that. But if you understand, quarterbacks cannot thrive with consistency against secondaries that are stacked with 7 DBs and no blitzing and pressure. And so if this Dolphins team doesn't figure this out, you're going to get a repeat. It's going to get a little better, and you're going to maybe win a little bit more if you get a few linemen in here. But KC had Thuney, they had Humphreys, they had Smith, and then they had Taylor, who's decent. And so 3 out of 5, like I said, in 2022 and 23 is bad for an offensive line. You've got to have at least 4 good players and 1 average player and some depth. Becton got injured, came out. They brought another guy in, a backup, and still it wasn't looking like Eichenberg. And so this Dolphins team, if they want to have success, they've got to develop the interior. You look at their pass rushers, they're not speed demons. The Sweat's pretty fast, Smith is pretty fast, but they've got a rotation of big guys inside to attack that center, forcing the doubles inside to leave the one-on-one so you can get the pressure and still fold the inside. So we're really not anywhere close to getting someplace serious, because we built on flash and speed and all outside zone and quick throwing. But if you can't run inside, you can't be physical, and then you can't attack inside, and you've got to blitz. We blitzed a lot last year, and it can work, but once you blitz, if you're not getting there, it puts the favor in the quarterback. And so Fangio, his style, his defenses work. He enhanced the Eagles despite all their talent. Most of the talent was Blankenship and then Quartz, or whatever. The cornerback wasn't there. But that didn't flip this whole thing from 30th, 26th, 31st to 2nd, 1st, and 1st. So hopefully Chris Grier understands this game is a physical game. It starts on the offensive trenches, goes to the defensive trenches, then it expands out into the skills. Linebackers, an important part. We got Brooks, a decent replica of Bourne. We need more linebackers. They lost one of their top linebacker and got a backup, and he played well. So it's even depth. So Eagles have drafted well. They built right. They got a good quarterback. And so this has got to come back to understanding this season and also the past. People say, oh, you don't need an offensive line. A great quarterback will make things happen. Well, how did it go for Mahomes? I mean, he took them to the Super Bowl, and that's a lot, but he's the greatest, or one of the greatest. Tua can't be expected to do that. So this Super Bowl has solidified the understanding of the NFL cycle going to pass balance. And I dare say there is going to be an accentuation on offensive drafting to build things like this because it's a copycat league. And then in return, defenses are going to build like Philly. So you can man 4 guys in the front to handle offensive lines without overcommitting. I don't know if we're there. We got Sealer. We've got an injured Chubb who is here or maybe not. We've got Phillips injured. Chop, one-dimensional, pass rusher. That's it. Kamara, Brooks. Got some corners, no safeties, and an offense. We've got to put a lot. We've got to get the tight end. We've got to be able to get some more offensive linemen and depth. So I just don't see, by looking at the teams, these teams, because you know KC next year in this draft is going to build that offensive lineup. They're going to add on their defensive front. And they're already a good team. So it's going to put a little distance from us because they've got a lot more pieces than us. Now, the hopeful part is that Grier begins the proper build and he scraps the prior build and he realizes, I'm not going to double down on this stuff. Problem is, some of these pieces that he's got, they're not going to function as well in a proper build. So it's going to be a very awkward build for us. It's going to take 2 to 3 seasons if we build right. We'll know in this 13th pick where Grier's headed because it's not easy to find offensive linemen, and it does take time to develop. So I'm going to get into coverage this week about it, but it's very clear. What we've got with the fumble system that we've kind of built, it is fun against bad teams, occasionally some big plays against good teams, but it does not function for real success in the NFL. Not when you got the likes of the Bills and the KCs and the Philadelphias, even the Rams and the Minnesotas. These teams have all built in the same style, the Tampa Bays. So it's clear now, and that's good. The only question is it clear to crazy Grier? This Super Bowl should definitely tell you how off he was, how poor a GM is. When you look at Harry Roseman, it's multiple levels difference, and that's what you got to compete with. So hopefully somehow he takes the Limitless, the movie Limitless pills, and he gets himself right because we need a lot of growth. I hope you enjoyed the Super Bowl. I did. Get back to this week. Curtis saying, be well, go Phins. Curtis out. Start building your own online sports book today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.